While Netflix is obsessed with Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon franchise, the director wants the platform to revive another film series close to his heart. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. In 2023, Zack Snyder brought to life an original idea that he had envisioned in the first part of the space film titled Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire. Though the film divided audiences and critics, its fortunes changed tremendously when it was picked up to stream on Netflix, which then saw Part 2 of the film titled The Scargiver releasing in April 2024, a week after its theatrical run. With an R-rated director's cut set to stream on August 2nd, it looks like Netflix is keen for Snyder to continue making more films in the franchise. But the Man of Steel director wants the creative heads to give importance to another popular franchise that got a lot of viewership on the streaming platform upon release. In 2004, Zack Snyder directed Dawn of the Dead, an action horror film that follows a group of survivors who try to navigate a zombie apocalypse while stranded in a shopping mall. Years later in 2021, he helmed Army of the Dead, which he termed as the first film's spiritual successor, and changed up the narrative by writing a screenplay about mercenaries who plan a casino heist during a zombie apocalypse. True to the trend surrounding Snyder's movies, the film ended up dividing audiences and critics, but also gave rise to a humorous spin-off titled Army of Thieves, which was seen as a prequel to the Army of the Dead. While there are talks of a sequel for a while now, there is no information beyond the fact that it has supposedly been in development. The director himself addressed this topic in an exclusive interview with Looper. Speaking of the franchise's successful association with Netflix, where both films have gained a lot of viewership, Snyder believed that the platform should push to get the next film rolling instead of urging him to develop on the Rebel Moon franchise. I keep telling Netflix that we need to go ahead and do some more, and they keep encouraging me to make more Rebel Moon movies. But I feel like this Army universe is really very rich and fun, and zombies never go out of style, so it just feels like a no-brainer to me. While Rebel Moon seems to be Netflix's primary focus at the moment, it remains to be seen if the platform takes Snyder's thoughts into consideration and kickstarts the next film in Army of the Dead. Zack Snyder's awaited director's cut of Rebel Moon will release on Netflix on the 2nd of August 2024. The film will work as two chapters titled Rebel Moon, Chapter 1, Chalice of Blood, and Chapter 2, Curse of Forgiveness, according to a report in Variety. Originally slated to stream on Netflix in the middle of 2024, the project was further delayed mainly owing to the director wanting to ensure that the film will stay true to his promise of an R rating, in a post that appeared in April on X. Snyder's movies have been famously known to be rated R owing to the language, violence, and certain emotionally mature content that is depicted in them. This stands true for his stint in the DCU as well as outside of it in films like 300 and Watchmen. In addition, the filmmaker is also known for his popular director cuts that have given audiences a glimpse into his vast creativity. Further information reveals that the extended cut, which was rated NC-17, is now rated R after Snyder's efforts to rework a few aspects of the narrative. With Netflix backing the filmmaker to present a fully unadulterated version of his passion project, fans will be eagerly waiting for what's in store. Zack Snyder's films are being crushed under the weight of too much melodramatic slow-motion storylines, and it simply needs to stop. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. The world that Zack Snyder comes from is stuffed with lore-driven drama, mature sensibilities, and dark imagination. His work reflects those traits in abundance, despite there being enough opportunities to go so completely campy in his artistic style that it would threaten even David Cronenberg's reputation in the field. But Snyder doesn't take the bait. He would rather be the master of dramatic storytelling that presents itself as an epic Greek tragedy than serve up a generic film that gets lost among the stampede of 1,000 other films coming off of Hollywood's factory lineup. It is this obstinate ambition to tell the greatest of stories in whichever genre he picks up, be it historical fiction like 300, comic adaptation like Watchmen, or a zombie apocalypse film like Dawn of the Dead, that often leads to a divisive cult classic hit. With grim, color-graded, dark vignettes marring every frame of heavy artillery dialogue, slow-motion action, and deep insightful monologues, Zack Snyder's films either hit the bullseye or his aesthetic vision completely turns off the viewers. In the recent past, Zack Snyder has been trampled, cursed out, exiled, and exorcised from the industry so completely that the fans who gathered in his support turned hostile in his defense. To back him didn't just mean supporting the director through his hardships, but also protecting his vision for DCU's future. The more that dream was shoved aside by Warner Brothers, the more ardent his fans would get in trying to get the project back on track until Justice League finally took a stand and came out successful in 2021. The shared shock and trauma from the 5-year-long incident evolved the director's image to a godlike figure to his community of undaunted, unbiased, and unwavering followers, a trait that has often earned them the nickname Snyder cultists by the opposition in online forums. But the aftermath of Rebel Moon saw even such loyal fans limiting their quota of praise reserved for the director. The Netflix film, which was supposed to be Zack Snyder's magnum opus, the masterpiece of the decade, a film unchecked by studio interference or censored by MPAA or slashed to reduce runtime, instead turned out to be a dud. Was this film then a one-off flop by Snyder who, for the record, has never failed to deliver cult classic hits, no matter how divisive? Or was Rebel Moon only the latest in a long line of films that showed off all the traits that combine to make a pure, unadulterated Zack Snyder classic? Zack Snyder's films have consistently delivered on a grand scale, no matter the genre or tone of storytelling. Be it comic adaptations, historical fiction, a zombie apocalypse film, or Star Wars-inspired jargon, each of Snyder's movies has been a fully formed visionary tale of epic character arcs filled with conflict, melodrama, and war. But while films like 300 inspire awe and terror over the nightmarish glimpse into Spartans and their logic-defying war against the Persians, the same defiant tone and ambition of underdogs waging war against an empire become grating to the nerves while watching Rebel Moon. The primary reason why Snyder's range shifts from his 2006 historical epic to the 2023 Netflix space opera is his increasing dependency on dramatic effects to add depth to his story rather than a focus on the story itself. When it comes to cinematography, Zack Snyder has always been a fan of long soul-cutting stares and dramatic silhouettes against a larger-than-life scenic backdrop. But such thematics never hampered his storytelling because they were used judiciously and with restraint. However, with time, the director has loosened up his reins. His films are now populated, haunted, and plagued by melodramatic slow-motion action sequences. Starting from the death of Superman to, quite frankly, every frame in Rebel Moon, Zack Snyder forgot to use his favorite tropes sparingly and let loose in the absence of studio interference. As a result, the entire film suffers from an incredulously slow-paced narrative and the audience groans and suffers while the protagonist takes out entire squadrons of enemies in extreme slow motion. While the director has only begun to overindulge in such habits, his flaws can be traced back even to the earliest films. Melodrama and Zack Snyder have never been strangers in this lifetime, but it has remained an overbearing and constant presence casting a shadow over every one of his stories. Although Snyder's aesthetic vision may suffer if one asks him to dial down the dramatic seriousness in his films, it may do the director some good to omit the longing stares, slow-motion action, and cinematic silhouettes in favor of character-building and high-stakes storytelling. Who knows? Maybe he could even narrate the entire story of Rebel Moon within one film if he could just pee.